welcome to the July 21st, 2025 regular meeting of the St. Mary's City Commission. First thing we want to talk about is the appropriation ordinances 12, 52, 53, and 54. We want to speak anything on those, Maurice?
1252 was.
Sure.
1253, that front page, 16,000 and some was for this backup generator from Perry Electrical. Of course, Tri-County. The 21,000 for Federal Signal Corps, that's only the partial cost of that storm siren. Trying to get that all worked out, but that was on that anyways.
Anything else on that?
I have no questions on any of them.
So when we're ready, I would take a motion to approve the three appropriation ordinances as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve appropriation ordinance number 1252, 1253, and 1254 as presented.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? They are approved as presented. Second item, we want to look at the proposed minutes from the last very efficient meeting. If we could feel free to people in terms of any inputs on those. Oh, you weren't here, were you? That's.
They look good to me.
Oh, you weren't here. No comment. Good, Francis. We didn't pass. All right, the minutes are approved. Do we have any agenda items to add? Seems like maybe we do.
Mr. Mayor, since we're hitting recreation first, I'd like to, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'd like to add ordinance number 1351 as a possible amendment to ordinance number 1351.
Yeah, I think we can, I don't see a problem with adding that under that agenda item. Discuss that. Anything else? All right, that is the first item on the agenda. It's just titled recreation. We just finished a work session, a discussion really about with the Recreation Advisory Board because we wanted their input on this ordinance that we passed but hasn't been implemented yet because there are some questions about whether or not this is the best way to get what we're after. So if we want to, everyone wants to talk generally. My takeaways from the work session, the primary takeaway is, I think we need a mechanism. We need to define what our strategic vision is for parks and recreation. If that's a separate subcommittee, that's one idea. That's a sort of a new idea. Well, it's sort of, we talked about doing that underneath the advisory board before. Maybe it's a separate thing, reporting directly to us. But in any case, we definitely need that. What I have heard repeatedly, and I'm never quite exactly sure what it means, that we don't have enough recreational stuff for the city. So I'd like to know, what does that mean? So that we can, if that is that's a need for the community, I'd like to meet it somehow in a controlled meeting. So we need to do that. That's all I was. And when we started the work session, it seemed like the answer was we need to strengthen communication between the advisory board and the commission by changing the membership, establishing a better process, etc. Maybe that's not the right answer. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Mayor. I think it was a good work session. We started think one of the first few lines stated were, the rec director mentioned he's working on a master plan. The board mentioned something about trying to establish a vision. And then in the middle of the meeting, the conversation kind of seemed to go a lot of different directions. But I think that might just be that the main issue right now is there's a hesitancy, from my perspective, to move forward on an individual project, pickleball or something else, because everything's connected down there in some form or another. And so I think the first step may be to establish a master plan, a little bit of a long-term look at the park. So, yeah, what's the best mechanism to do that? I think the ordinance as written can certainly achieve that. But after listening to the rec board, understand what the rec board does more on a day-to-day, just kind of recommendations on programs. It's not, it's not really the top of the issue. The issue is these projects and the holistic look at the long-term plan for the park. That's what it seems like they're struggling with. And so what's the mechanism to help establish that long-term plan, the long-term vision, start prioritizing these projects, figuring out costs, understanding the budget, and then start chipping away at them. I think the ordinance as written can achieve that. Is it perfect as far as a long-term position? It's probably not needed as a long-term position, but there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into kind of figuring out a space, developing what's proper use of that space, all the amenities and everything else. It's not just something a couple work sessions will knock out. Sometimes it takes, especially if it's not hired out, it'll take many, many hours. But that's where I think with good direction, hiring out a person who does this for a living, help the city establish that long-term plan, I think it can happen faster. But once again, they're doing the same thing and expecting different results. Not a good plan. So I think the ordinance as written is fine, but I think if we adjust it more of a subcommittee specifically for that topic of establishing a long-term plan, that could work as well.
Did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I was pleased with the work session. I'm disappointed that none of them stayed for the regular meeting. Maybe they weren't aware that their input could be valuable, I don't know, but, I think it would have been into the continuing discussion that we have about this. My concerns, the rec advisory board, it sounds like, from everything I've gathered from this evening, is all they do is advise on the park. Should we call them the Riverside Park Advisory Board?
They also can advise on programs that are offered, and,
But I didn't take away, that's not what I took away from the work session tonight. What I took away from the work session was that they advise on the park, and that's all they do. And I know that they do much more than that.
Sure.
I've been approached by a handful of people recently that want to get involved with the rec advisory board, that have ideas for rec, for the parks, for a lot of different things. So my thought on the rec portion of this item A is, I think going forward, if they aren't interested or aren't motivated, maybe they should step aside and let somebody else have a shot at it. So that being said, as far as ordinance number 1351, I did vote for it. But after having, like I said, thought and looked at it over and over again, I think adding the rec director or directors in this case is sufficient, and I would like to see us actually just remove, I know the wording would have to be changed in other areas, but section B, just remove that I don't want city commissioners, I don't want any one of us on that board guiding them, directing them. If they can't get ideas or plans together, and not, they're not necessarily, I'm not saying all the, you know, they're not gonna hire people to make a master plan and things like that. But if they can't give input into that, maybe they don't need to be on the rec advisory board to begin with. And I don't think it's gonna take, I don't think it's necessary to have one of us on there guiding them, leading them, moving them in any way, shape, or form. So I would like to see us amend this ordinance, ordinance number 1351, and remove anything that has to do with the city commission being a part of the board.
So that's a motion?
No, I mean, I would make a motion as,
I'm sorry, I
not
processed
a
it all.
motion yet, not a
Motion
motion
to
yet.
hold up on that. Nate, did you- or- sorry.
Just one final point, I failed to mention this, but one other takeaway from the meeting was comment by Joey Archer, member of the rec board. And his comment was that he thought the rec board will meet, discuss what we discussed, discuss the concept and the needs, and then report back to the commission with their recommendation. So that's something else to consider. I know that there wasn't any final conclusion there, but I'll assume that they will try to come back to the commission with a recommendation. And certainly have to wait for that. Anyway, I wanted to make that point. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate them coming and meeting with us for an hour. I have no objection to, getting outside help to help craft and form a master plan for the park. It's a good idea. I think it can give them something to work off of potentially. So I would be in favor of that. I am in favor of the rec directors in this situation being part of the rec board going forward. And whether we wait on the ordinance tonight or wait for the rec advisory board to come back with what their thought is, I'm open to whatever, but I think between bringing someone in to help and formalizing the rec directors with them a little bit more, I think that would put us on the path for more success than we've seen recently. I think that would be a good step in the right direction.
Mr. Mayor, I had a few things to say. Certainly eye-opening during that meeting. So if I can summarize what I understand, and I want to be clear, I actually voted for the ordinance to be passed. However, I do have a couple reservations, and I'd like to go over that. So the ordinance, just in brief summary, if I can get this right, would be a way to enforce the rec board to meet. Sounds like they can't do that on their own, but it also help them provide a better understanding of the budget. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, I mean, it would
What's it-
formalize the
So,
process
and
and
then-
establish clear communication.
Clear communication, and then Nate's had talked about wanting to fix the system that's already in place. As I was reviewing this ordinance, that yes, I did a vote for, one of my concerns is, actually what Francis brought up is, I don't see it as a long-term thing to have a member on the board, but certainly doing like a subcommittee thing where it's just for a certain period of time, I think that's actually a quite reasonable ask. Yeah, because there needs to be but I think tonight, one of the biggest eye-opening things for me is that, hey, this was the first time that I'm seeing this, this master plan that, for immediate consideration and future consideration. So I don't see why once a year we have a work session and hash out things with the, rec board and city commission.
Yeah.
Where we're all on the same page. I thought that was extremely helpful tonight.
So you're saying form an ad hoc committee to look at one particular issue for a particular period of time,
Yeah.
and maybe work on an RFQ or request for qualifications for these engineering firms?
My only question about that is, I agree, I think we all agree generally. But when looking at the advisory board duties, the question I was gonna ask you is, the way we were talking about it, it seems as though the advisory board has no strategic role, but it's supposed to.
The strategic role, if you get the city code,
Yeah,
whatever, they're supposed to make recommendations on big improvements to the park and then also to the program.
construction, reconstruction, improvements of public parks and recreation facilities, including the acquisition of land for park purposes, the acquisition of major recreational equipment and facilities, and the institution of new programs. That sounds strategic to me. So so I'm not sure why we need a subcommittee, that's their job. That would appear to be the purpose of the advisory board.
Yeah, but just,
And I'm not-
in their defense from years gone by, it had morphed into something more than that, because of the rec directors meeting with them,
Right.
and that sort of stuff, so, and when that was taken away, not by me necessarily, because it depends on the personality of each rec director, people were not happy about that, and I'm fine either way, I'll say that each time.
I guess my only point is, I agree we should have a plan. I agree the best way to have a good plan is to have recourse to someone who does this, a park planner or
That would be the request for qualifications, and sending them out, and then the city commission could.
but I don't know that, do we need a subcommittee, or can we just ensure that the rec advisory board, that is,
I don't think we need a sub.
that's their committee. That's what,
That's it.
I think that's what they're supposed to be doing, is looking, again, this is just, and it's my own misunderstanding, but I say rec advisory, that's broad, that's recreational services for the community.
And we met to work on the swimming pool proposals, there wasn't any commissioners present. And we had a consultant come out a couple times, and they put it together, and then no action was taken. So be it here, if you don't wanna have the ordinance, if you wanna have the subcommittee, have another meeting like this, and be that the night.
Well, but I do think we need the ordinance in some form to make it, because I think that the rec director at the least should be on the advisory board. And someone needs to do this middle part that was gonna be this paragraph B, 14403 paragraph B. Someone needs to have the authority to chair the board, report advisory board recommendations to the commission, and call advisory board. Someone needs to be doing that.
The chair has that authority, and any two members can call a meeting, it's just, it's not happening in the fashion that,
But then that goes back, that goes back to the point I made is, how much enthusiasm is there amongst all the members of that board to really do things, get things going and get involved in projects?
so they did do that survey from SurveyMonkey, I presented a package from a couple years ago, and they did put a master plan together, but there's no visual of
Yeah,
that.
enthusiasm can be dampened when you have the sense that no one's listening. And so
I don't
that's the communication
I get
part
that, Matt, I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
but I don't,
The outside consultant to put everything on paper is probably the only way to go.
So I think, like a lot of things, it takes time, right? To really figure out what's the best path forward. I think the Parks and Rec Board is gonna meet, they're gonna come back with some sort of recommendation. Take a look at it, there's a lot of good ideas, but I think kind of where I'd like to see it is just pump the brakes on the topic until the Parks and Rec Board comes back. And kind of focus in on what is the best path forward to get that master plan with the vision of what we're trying to accomplish. And is it a change to the ordinance as it is right now? Is it a permanent member? Is it a temporary member? Is it a subcommittee specifically for that particular thing, which is very similar to what the current duties are? But I think keeping the focus on, you know, what is the next, what's the big issue? The big issue is I think there needs to be some sort of long-term plan. And however that gets achieved, there's a lot of different paths towards there. But I would say at this point in time, because of the questions, just wait for the Parks and Rec Board to get back with their kind of recommendation on what they would like to see as far as the plan to get the master plan books.
For the commission, regarding, you know, a commissioner being part of that or what have you, but can this be accomplished, Francis, what you just said about getting a subcommittee or get that master plan for the parks, can that be done more so in a voluntary, you know, one of the commissioners volunteering to be at those meetings with the rec board? So to give you an example of recent past is that with the library, we had two different commissioners that volunteered to go to those library meetings. And so would we be able to accomplish that same outcome of whether the rec board needs questions about budgetary purposes or coming up with the overall grand plan? Could that just be done by a commissioner volunteering to attend those meetings? Could we get the same outcome?
Any commissioner can go to the meetings, two commissioners can go to the meeting for that.
Does there need to be an ordinance, or can that be done just by a commissioner volunteering to go?
Sorry, Francis.
Is that a question for me, correct?
Yes, or
So I think there's a lot of ways that could result in a good effect. But I think the thing to consider is what is the most realistic option. And sometimes that comes with some form of formality or accountability and direction. So if it's a volunteer, well, it may or may not happen. If it's a direction with accountability, there's a much better likelihood of the effect happening. So yeah, a lot of different options, just some probably are more realistic than others. And so for me, I think it's just, I would lean more towards formalizing it and having a clear objection or objective and a clear path to achieve it. And that would go maybe as a subcommittee, but either way, I think there's a lot of options. And if we wait, I look forward to hearing what the Parks and Rec Board would recommend.
Anything else for now? Well, I was just, if you want action, you need to have assignment, tasking, and accountability. So I think we have the pieces, could have the pieces in place to do that. I think that there's no real rush on this that I'm aware of, so I would suggest, why don't we wait to hear, if you could follow up and make sure we do hear, please, from the advisory board.
You'll hear back from them, and I also have an idea I will flesh out for y'all.
When will they meet?
We're gonna email them in the morning or tonight before we leave and ask them that.
So how long do we give them? I don't mind waiting, I'm not gonna wait
Well,
2 months.
I don't think it'll take them 2 months, because they were all here tonight, or most of them, whatever, and they were told, and I think it's something they're gonna get an answer to, but we'll follow up with them.
By the first, maybe our first,
Our next
we're in
regular
our second
meeting.
meeting, right? Maybe by our second meeting in February, that's my suggestion. If we're gonna wait, I'm willing to wait that long, but not any longer than that, I don't know, much longer than that.
Thank you.
You were gonna flush something out later.
Yeah, well, all your ideas, I think there's another way to handle it, that would have to make everyone okay.
Okay,
we not go anywhere with the speed study, or is that gonna be included in this?
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
get a
you
new
know,
price?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I got an updated quote and
go
that,
for it, shoot.
$300 more.
yeah, but $100 got it adjusted. But that's still the thing that we're going after, that we're hoping to, that I guess at this point y'all get to decide on tonight. But some updates on the grander entire situation is, I think in case anything's been slid between the packets or the emails, is KDOT agreed to First and Bertrand on the pedestrian crossing for the flashing lights to study that. Second Street, TEEP, KDOT will be giving us that grant to have that study. There's one company that submitted, and I got the email a few days ago, that's interested in undertaking that.
What's involved in the Second Street one?
So I actually printed that out. This is what they, let me see.
Does it address the proposal of the stop sign at Bottom Hill? Does it?
Yeah, it says, risk of pedestrian safety due to steep hills, driveways, walking trail crossing additional to the church school. City looking for traffic safety improvements, potential mitigation, improved, pedestrian crossing markings and signage, traffic calming techniques such as, and again, this is just them right now. Potential single lanes, mini roundabouts, white.
Does that say traffic calming?
It did.
They said calm, they calm the traffic down.
Wow.
Correct.
Other improvements, alternatives to slow traffic and reduce conflict points between vehicles to pedestrians.
Okay, so it'll be pretty comprehensive what they're doing, because you're saying that. So the quote was for $6,800, correct? Or
65.
65? Because when you're done, if there's a consensus, we can move forward on it, if that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and then with the speed bumps, Bob provided the type, and he put together a map of just some areas, kind of the consensus of the officers were that could use some improvement. So yeah, those are the 4 areas.
Elm Street, right at the stop, isn't there a stop sign right there, Elm Second?
I think they're looking at it as people coming up from Sixth Street heading west.
And also, people are turning right onto Elm Street, coming south on Second, go pretty fast around there.
I don't disagree with
There's only a stop sign going, yeah, so it's the turning onto Elm from Second and coming up, well, they
you.
do.
It's going from Elm to Second, there's a stop sign.
Yeah,
So this,
I think so.
literally, no
So-
speed bumps.
The study was included, all of it.
There's nothing.
The study is, in order to do the, where we do the all unmarked residential streets are whatever the recommended speed, 25, 20. And then that would be signage as you enter the city. Again, if they recommend that change, that would alert everybody as they come in that that is unmarked residential streets are X speed.
So, and just to, so for my memory's sake, if they come back and say, no, I mean, your current speeds are fine the way they are, we could still do it, but our city attorney wouldn't enforce it.
That might be the case then. I mean,
Yeah.
if there isn't some valid, if it doesn't meet the statute, then the statute does have the engineering component to it that I always
Right.
left off. It would probably, I would have to probably get an opinion from him, but that would be my impression.
Yeah, I would think at that point it's outside my
If-
wheelhouse. Yeah, this
Yeah, if the
is-
study come back and recommended no change, then that's what he would side with.
Okay. Chief, on Durant, is that on 8th Street or is that the 8th Durant intersection, but on Durant or on 8th?
On Durham.
Yeah. So the thought is people are
So
flying out of,
I know from the past, yeah, from at least communicating, for the farmers and things, 8th Street was kind of being kept a little open. And so I guess the thoughts of the officers were anybody who at that point is entering more residential, they cross 8th Street into, yeah.
So 3 in Lakeview,
So, I just had a quick question about 8th Street. I thought that was one of the main contentions of where a lot of people are speeding and they're not recommending any speed bumps on that road.
just says there's a few competing interests with the speed bumps is snow removal and also first responder traffic. I mean, we also, other than the farmers, we use 8th Street if we have to rapidly get up into the town in order to respond to something, so I don't know. It's kind of a.
Okay, because that was one of the streets that was supposed to be on the study. So-
Yeah.
You wanna get a new tire replacement machine, be able to fix it.
It's stress though.
That's interesting.
You said 6,500 for the study? 6,500, Chief?
I think it was 6,800, but
Yeah, I think it was 60.
it's $300 more than it was presented last year. Same verbiage, as far as document, but I believe there was a $300 increase in what you sent me. So, and the time to do it,
6,500.
6,500?
About from 62.
Okay, well,
How would we pay for it?
it'd be, well, one of the main reasons, option would be kind of like sales tax, but we could maybe, charge it to general fund in some fashion or split it,
Well, there's a worksheet later on,
well, in the packet I
Yeah.
put down a revised kind of like, so that,
but
that primarily was just to get all the ideas out there so that I didn't forget any. But sales tax would be one of the main ways.
But for example, we might have $5,000 from the golf course that we don't have to use.
So that transfer at the end of last year, that resolution, you done one the previous year, and it looks like we're gonna end the year with $2,700 in there without making that transfer. So that will just go to the carryover to this year, and that's 5,000. And we're recommending to not make that transfer, so that's the bulk of it right there.
I'd like to see us move forward with it, Mr. Mayor.
What about the speed bumps themselves? What do you think of adding the speed bumps?
My only worry is snow removal and first responder traffic, but I think some of the spots are not, I don't think they're anything that should create a major hazard for responding to. And if anything, I guess they come with I don't know, Bob, I mean, it's kind of,
It gets we.
how hard are they to remove if they, once they've been put in?
Well, if we put the asphalt ones in the park, they're permanent, you know, but they do get occasionally knocked out by the plow. And then we have to redo them in the summer.
Yeah, but it never snows here.
The thing is about those speed bumps, I don't know if you ever noticed in the park, you know, they're around Diamond 3. The kids, they just go over them fast, so they don't feel them. The older people, they'll go slower, you know, over them, but
So the people are already
the kids
following
that
speed
are-
limit,
yeah,
slow down, and
they're
those who don't.
they bump over them.
If we're moving forward with the study, and one of the reasons I was pushing so hard for the speed bumps was because I felt as if we weren't doing anything with this speed study, and I wanna do something. And if the speed study comes back and says, no, you don't need any reduction in speed, and the city attorney comes back and says, no, I won't prosecute if you do, then I think I would start pushing for those speed bumps again. That,
You're saying, you wanna see if we get the speed study approved by the other commissioners,
my-
wait for those results, and then act accordingly?
that's how I feel, yes.
So the $6,200, that was increased to 65.
Did anyone else have a comment? Did you have a comment, Francis? That makes sense to me. I don't wanna be putting him in and taking him out personally, but. So we take a motion for
If
that.
there's a consensus, we don't have it from Friday yet, I don't want you to approve something you have like that. Just say there's a consensus,
We have a consensus to, spend
The mayor's side.
$6,500 on the, speed study.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me to sign.
yes.
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 Yeah.
I think that's a yes. Yes, we have a consensus.
It's gonna be great to get an answer to that question, and then also Latique to find out about that hill on Second Street. That one comes up every few years, if not every year, about should there be a stop sign there or not. If it's safe, then we'll have a choice, and, well, but we'll have those answers.
It's always,
topics there because it was asked to be on the agenda. They didn't fill out, but it's Francis did that. So the 2025 electrical rates, at the last meeting, I was directed to put all utility rates on the agenda. It's right in the minutes, so, but first is electrical. You got that.
I think we got the spreadsheet and
That spreadsheet with the 2024 column, I'm not sure that calculates into the formula, isn't square, but
the,
you got the other data, yes.
so there's a lot of numbers there. And when we've done these in the past, I take a little bit more time to analyze it and then take a look at different options and try to calculate out the effects on the carryover balance electric fund. I did get some information, asked Maurice for a couple of things on capital improvement. Expectations for this year and future years, and kind of the bucket truck, that was a little bit of an adjustment. I originally thought that was gonna be next year, we actually did it last year. So there's a couple differences based on the time and situation. I'd like to just wait till next meeting and then, I'll try to have a presentation for next meeting just with the rates and suggestions based on kind of the deeper dive into the capital improvement numbers.
Yeah, and as part of that, we did have that plan of the capital improvement
For
project.
2020, yes, we had that.
We-
And I,
But unless you were, do you wanna just present something else, or do you wanna have the?
So on the capital improvement plan for the electric department, the major items, from what I remember, are already kind of addressed or taken care of. The remainder is a project that's already been approved, that's the big transformer. And so we know what that amount's gonna be. And then the other projects are all fairly small, and they're different switches and different components down in the commercial district, industrial park. So all the major projects for the electric department are kind of known or already completed.
Right, I just
So-
wanna make sure they're programmed in for, on the timeline
Well-
for next year.
he has that information and he put it in there on the
Yeah.
proposal. On my version, I didn't put any of that stuff in there. Well, I think I have 215. So the substation project was approved 2 years ago, calendar years, and that's for 270. They did the concrete, they did some other work, then they was letting it, it is November, they was doing that. They was letting the concrete cure, and they was waiting for parts, and then nothing happened. And I think they may have had some employee issues about having enough manpower. So this, 2024, nothing was done. So the remainder of that project, which is like 215,000, needs, probably gonna get done this year. And if you look through that 2020 report, this was the big ticket item. And as Francis said, there's other projects that can be done, but you can group them in different sizes. The more important one would probably be not switching, but it's in the industrial park, all that buried electrical wire, when it shorts out, it's hard to determine, but then you have a little flashing light, so there's plenty to do. The big one is this year though, to finish out.
Right, so just, I guess, just for my own help, when it's set, for example, says electrical, equipment electric, it would just be nice to know precisely what that is.
For equipment,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I see the number, I would just like to know what it corresponds to, how we're tracking on the capital improvement plan. But that's all. And I would, eventually, we need the same stuff for the other utilities as well.
keep in mind that the sewer plant is going through that
I know we
facility study.
need that, I think, before
And
we can do that.
They were promised, you were promised from Daniel Monaco, a kind of like a, I don't know if we call it a stopgap between where we're at now and to where we get to a point where that plant would be refurbished, if it needs to be refurbished.
Right.
And I don't have that yet, and that's, in water, we got data on that, just decided on how you would approach those projects, big or small.
Anything else on that for right now? Focus on the electric first next time. Storm sirens.
So last year, Dan Marstall, Fire Chief, came before you and said that we have six storm sirens, but with new ones, we need to go down to 3. And they were $37,000 a piece. You approved one of them, the one that needed, one storm siren over on Grand Avenue was the most that needed repair. And 21,000 of that is on tonight's invoice, the remainder will be later. This would be for the additional 2, to be able to take care of all of them and go from 6 to 3. There's a map in there, and that he believes on some of the older ones, there may be some value left in those for a resale. That would bring the project price down. I don't want to quote it, we don't really know, but this would, the quote in there from Federal Signal would be for 2 additional ones, like the single one that was approved last year. $64,831.40.
And, so I see you've, put that in for your projected cost for transfer of the countywide sales tax. So if we get some money out of those others, then that is actually gonna
We'll go
help.
back in there, yeah.
That'll help for next year.
And that's whatever you get off of. There's I believe a department in Pot County that might be interested, if not Purple Wave, but that's a hit or miss, type thing.
So, do we need any action on that?
Well, if you want to take action, you make a motion to approve the quote as presented. If you're uncertain and want to ask the fire chief some questions, you carry it over to a future meeting. Those are possibilities.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the new? We've accounted for it, and it looks like it should
We
work.
need to go.
But,
I think we need to
yeah,
get,
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I guess I would take a motion to approve, purchasing the additional 2 storm sirens for, $64,800.
Is everyone 40 yes?
831, 64,000. I move,
2 storm sirens, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we, approve the $64,831.40 for 2 additional new storm sirens.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Yeah. Second.
Double purpose, yes.
Yes, I have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And that's Francis in the second?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Francis is getting a little bit loose up here. I don't know.
So it is a little easier, you know, who made the motion.
I'm in,
Wait till that in a
Yeah,
second.
he was looking for the second.
I know,
Yes.
I know where it is.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the library flooring.
So last year, Dennis Miller and others approached us about getting new flooring from the library. And we'd asked if, tile, something like that, if you want to talk to them and say that they're interested in having a carpet down there because of the noise issues or whatever. So I told Dennis, I go, things are gonna be tight and that, I think we pay for that because of the C-clip and it's unpredictable if we wait till this year. So I put it on this agenda. Dennis said he couldn't be here, but what we were looking for from y'all is the go-ahead to start getting quotes or other directions from you.
What kind of carpet?
Well, that remains to be seen. I don't know. I mean, we would, we don't wanna go out talking about product without, having it okayed by y'all. And my initial, thought would be to try to get a ballpark quote, confidential one, based off of just square footage, just to see what the ballpark number is. I mean, I don't have a concept of what this type of facility would take for carpeting, The city hall, we did tile, I don't remember the dollar amounts, but it came in much lower than I ever imagined it would. But then that base type of tile, so, go back on track is they're requesting that the flooring, maybe you need to go up and look at it and decide for yourself if it needs repaired or replaced. Or maybe talk with them and we do it 2 phases, 1 year to the next. I don't know what it's gonna cost, and I would like to get quotes or a quote or talk to somebody about it.
have in here right now is
I wouldn't even say
45,000.
that because it doesn't mean nothing. I mean,
Well, but
it means something that
It makes
piece of
us-
paper you have,
with
but
your guesses, it makes us negative, more significantly negative at the end of the day. than-
yeah, I could have easily put in there double that. I just don't know.
It doesn't hurt to get quotes.
And it obviously would depend on the quality of the carpet and those kind of things, so.
I guess my question to the library would be, I don't know if Bill can address this, is this a nice to have or a need to have?
Well, the carpet that we have has been pretty remarkable. I am told it might be 50 years old. It is really worn well, but it's at its end of its service
So
life.
it's carpet already, it's not tile carpet?
Oh, yeah, it's carpeted,
Okay.
yeah.
Right, so carpet.
And we had we have these preschool literacy groups, and picture 30 preschoolers, 35 moms, the library staff in a room. The carpet really makes a difference in terms of the acoustical environment, the sound control that provides. In terms of where we are in terms of necessity, there are some areas where it's been difficult to repair it, and we're worried about trip hazards and things like that that a 50-year-old carpet sometimes presents. So I would hope we at least take a look at what the options are and ballpark some ideas in terms of costs, see where we are.
Would the library be willing to match or help fund?
It would have to be asked. I've not asked them for anything before. So. He's asking if the library would be able to match any of it.
We could look at that. I think the history of there are 4 libraries and 4 mini libraries, so a total of 8 in the 2 counties. And I don't know that any of the landlords have received contributions from the library for that kind of.
You know, so a couple years ago, you received grants to do some of that work outside. Are there any grants available to you that would help?
We could look at that.
'Cause this process is gonna take a while, but if you could do that, that would be
Sure.
helpful.
Sure, yeah.
Alright.
I have just that
So
two
the-
HVACs and.
So the consensus to have us at least start this process,
So,
get some information for you?
Anyway, yes. Yes.
Alright, thank you.
Tire machine,
So the current tire machine's 14 years old and is also near the end of its service life. In the packet is a quote from the Coates. So that first page there was off their website. When I asked to get a second quote, they got a quote from the same type of tire machine. There's a picture in there that shows the current setup, 14 years, and we use it to fix our own flats, and it saves us time from having to wait to have another person do that. But it also lets us do maintenance on our vehicles and swap out 4 tires when it's time on each of the quad cars. It doesn't do any of the bigger ones, of course.
any of the bigger ones? You're talking about like the tractors?
For like the loaders and
Yeah.
tractors, that sort of stuff, we're not set up for that. He's looking at the tire machine at $9,799, the wheel balancer at $57.99, and then truck cone adapter set for balancer for $375. Those 3 items is what he's looking for, Dan Marshall is. And one of the differences between what we currently have and the proposed one is it has a second arm. If you look at that picture of the tire there, it makes it, I guess, safer.
Does it pay for itself, Maurice?
Well, if they last 15 years and, $1,000, so think about the cost of fixing flats, but the cost is not just the $20 it takes to fix it, it's having to wait for it to be repaired and all that sort of stuff, so you can probably argue it either way. We've had one for 14 years and it gets pretty good usage, but I don't have any stats for you. And we charge it water, sewer, electric, and probably a smaller amount to the PD and the fire department, because it covers all those departments, so.
we're looking for your, motion to approve this, or is this?
Yeah, to
So
accept,
there's a wheel balancer and then a better wheel balancer.
he's got the one circled.
So the circle one is the one that,
Correct, and
Okay.
9,000,
These three items, 97.99, 57.99, 375.
you can pencil them together, yeah, if you want to add up a total, but he's just asking for these three items to be purchased. As presented.
15,900. What did you ask?
So, I'm sorry, I was looking at what, asking what now?
What's the total?
15,973.
15,000. So, a little over $1,000 a year to have it.
Yeah, and I was asking Maurice about this earlier, would it be cheaper to outsource it? And it's actually an there may be, but it's an operational concern, maybe even more than if you need it fixed now, you need it fixed now.
Think so, Bob?
Well, yeah, that, and then, disaster time, if we
Yeah.
had no power, they got the generator down, we had tires.
That's what I mean, so operational concerns are pretty strong to suggest it's worth the investment. And Maurice said others have been trained to use this now too, not this dam.
Yeah, we never had a time machine until we hired Marstall,
Right.
we got one, and then I know of 2 other people that can use it.
So was the Napa store, was this the only, sorry,
So that's the quote, that's the one they were just gonna go order. I said, well, hey, why don't we get a second quote? So he directed me to the website where we got the quote unquote second quote, and, it was just, the same price essentially. And we probably have to go through this guy as a retailer or a dealer anyway.
Any thoughts?
Needed, it's needed.
So this would be a motion, yes?
Yes,
And we can split this cost, you said.
I'll draw it up, and it'll go water, sewer, electric, smaller amount to the fire department and the PD.
I will then take a motion to approve spending $15,973 for a new tire machine and balancer. If I say this, that everyone's gonna know I have no idea what I'm talking about, but yes, a tire machine, wheel balancer, and truck cone adapter set balancer. Take a motion for that.
I so move.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. That is approved. Reports.
Okay, the planning commission is working on having a public hearing for quote unquote, again, rezoning Lakeview. This came about because a gentleman wanted to rezone his lot to R2 to put a duplex up there. On the map up there, you can see Lakeview's all yellow, which is all single family. And if you would just try to rezone one lot, although it isn't a technical term, some people refer to it as spot rezoning. And the city attorney said, you can't say yes or no, you have to do the process, but he thought it'd be difficult to meet the requirements that you have to include the golden factors. So then at the plan commission meeting, I suggested, well, why don't you try a little subdivision? Well, that entire subdivision is gigantic, and the city, or the UDC requires notification 200 feet within the city and 1,000 feet if it's out on the county line or whatever. So we've got the notification list, and it's gigantic, but I don't believe there's gonna be anybody believing that that entire yellow on that map up there would get rezoned. I did it to, save it so that everyone had a chance to comment on it at the meeting, maybe look at a smaller portion, but it's, just a difficult geographical thing to handle, and that sort of stuff. So, I can go ahead with their question. I haven't sent out we've sent the notice to the paper. It'll be February 24th here, 7 o'clock. The property owners will be getting this letter. Some of them are over in Guadalupe Bay or up in Bunch Breeze and wonder why they're getting these letters. It's because it's 1,000 feet outside the city, because it bumps up against the county line. So in case you get any calls, just say, if you got the letter, attend the hearing and say your piece. Because there's gonna be people pro and con, but do understand that that's a big area, but I don't know how to handle it otherwise. And I think this will work out for the best, so that's all I have. Question? Well, so one of the property owners did ask me if there's a homeowners association up there. And although we're not the official repository as such, because that's a private thing between the property owners, we do keep that sort of stuff. And there are 3 or 4 different versions, depending on the year. And one of the persons who read through it said it looks like there is a homeowners association up there on paper, and it automatically renews every 10 years. There may not be a board, there may not have ever been any meetings, but we do have those restricted covenants, and they would be on file with the county officially. But I've got them, and I'm gonna send them out to the planning commissioners and other people that want them. I basically doesn't allow anything other than single family, but I did run that by the city attorney, and he said, well, the city can run its own zoning process, and they can run their stuff, and, everything will be fine. He goes, but if there is a board, ask them for their opinion, because we don't want to be quote-unquote collateral damage. If something goes haywire, if people be upset. So the city's allowed to follow the zoning process regardless of restricted covenants. It's up to a homeowners association or some other entity besides the city to enforce those covenants, if they're still in effect or not. So, I just want you to be aware in case you've gotten some